The night the billionaire CEO walked into the quiet restaurant, no one noticed the exhausted waiter rushing between tables with trembling hands and tired eyes. No one noticed the way he secretly wiped his eyes in the kitchen corner after checking the time on his cracked phone screen. But she noticed everything. And what she discovered about that struggling single father would soon shake both of their worlds in ways no one could have imagined. Before we continue this emotional story, take a moment to support the channel. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of love to change lives, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel, Lonely Dad Strong Heart. Your support helps these powerful stories reach more hearts around the world. The restaurant sat quietly at the edge of the city, glowing softly under warm yellow lights that flickered against the cold night air. It wasn't a fancy place. It was the kind of restaurant where tired workers came for a cheap meal and a little comfort after long days. And every night, Daniel moved between the tables with quiet determination. His uniform was always clean but worn, his shoes slightly torn, and his eyes carried the heavy weight of someone who had lived through too much too soon. Daniel wasn't just a waiter. He was a father trying to survive. 3 years earlier, his life had collapsed like a house made of glass. His wife, the love of his life, had passed away suddenly after a brief illness, leaving him alone with their small son, Ethan. The grief nearly destroyed him, but the responsibility of raising his boy forced him to keep moving forward. Every day became a battle between exhaustion and hope. He worked double shifts, barely slept, and sacrificed everything just to make sure Ethan had food, school supplies, and a warm bed. Every night, after his shift ended, Daniel would sit quietly in the restaurant's back room for a few minutes before leaving. Not because he wanted rest, but because he needed to gather enough strength to face another long night of parenting alone. He would check the pictures of Ethan on his phone and remind himself why he couldn't give up. What Daniel didn't know was that someone had been watching him for weeks. Her name was Victoria Hartley. Victoria was the CEO of one of the largest tech companies in the country. Her name appeared in business magazines, her decisions influenced markets, and her life was surrounded by wealth and power. Yet despite all of that success, Victoria often felt an emptiness that success could never fill. One evening, after a difficult meeting with investors, Victoria had asked her driver to stop at the small restaurant. She wanted quiet, somewhere anonymous, somewhere real. That's when she saw Daniel. At first, he was just another hardworking waiter. But something about him stood out. Maybe it was the gentleness in his voice when he spoke to elderly customers. Maybe it was the way he quietly paid for a homeless man's meal without telling anyone. Or maybe it was the sadness in his eyes that he tried so hard to hide. Victoria returned the next week. And then the week after that. She sat at the same corner table every time, watching the quiet hero moving between the tables. She noticed things others didn't. She saw how Daniel skipped meals to save money. She saw how he checked his phone during breaks to make sure his son had finished homework. She saw how tired he looked but how he never stopped smiling for customers. One rainy evening, Victoria accidentally overheard something that broke her heart. Daniel was in the kitchen speaking softly to someone on the phone. His voice carried a mixture of exhaustion and love. He was talking to Ethan. He promised his son that he would be home soon. He apologized for missing another school event. He told Ethan to eat the dinner he left in the fridge. And then, when the call ended, Daniel leaned against the wall and quietly wiped away tears. Victoria felt something inside her shift. For the first time in years, the powerful CEO felt something deeper than business strategy or financial success. She felt compassion, curiosity, and slowly, something more dangerous. She wanted to know his story. Over the following weeks, Victoria began learning more about Daniel. Not through investigators or reports like she normally would, but simply by observing and occasionally asking small questions when he served her table. She learned that he once dreamed of becoming a teacher. She learned that Ethan was 7 years old and loved drawing superheroes. She learned that Daniel refused charity because he believed dignity was the only thing he had left. And with every new detail, Victoria admired him more. This man had nothing. No money. No powerful connections. No safety net. Yet somehow, he was stronger than most of the wealthy executives she worked with every day. But Daniel had no idea who she really was. To him, she was simply a quiet, polite woman who visited the restaurant often and left generous tips. Everything changed one evening when Ethan suddenly became sick. Daniel received the call during his shift. His neighbor, who watched Ethan at night, told him the boy had a high fever and could barely stay awake. Panic rushed through Daniel's chest. He wanted to leave immediately, but the restaurant manager had already warned him about missing shifts. Losing this job would mean losing everything. Victoria saw the fear in Daniel's face that night. She watched as he struggled between responsibility and desperation. Without hesitation, she quietly stood up, walked to the manager, and spoke a few calm but firm words. 10 minutes later, Daniel was told he could leave early. Confused and grateful, he rushed out without knowing that the mysterious woman from Table 7 had just used her influence to save his job. Later that night, Victoria did something she had never done before. She followed her heart. She arranged for a private doctor to visit Ethan. She ensured medicine arrived at Daniel's small apartment. She made sure the child received proper care without revealing her identity. For the first time in months, Daniel felt hope. But when he eventually discovered who Victoria truly was, the truth stunned him. The quiet restaurant guest was a billionaire CEO. And the reason she had helped him wasn't pity. It was something far more powerful. Feelings. But Victoria's world was complicated. Investors, board members, and the media watched her every move. A relationship with a struggling waiter and single father would cause controversy, gossip, and judgment. So she faced a choice. Follow the expectations of her powerful world. Or follow her heart. Weeks later, Victoria made a decision that shocked everyone. She invited Daniel to a charity event hosted by her company. The room was filled with wealthy elites, powerful figures, and flashing cameras. No one expected what happened next. Victoria walked onto the stage. And instead of delivering a corporate speech about profits or innovation, she told a story. She told the story of a man who worked exhausting hours but never stopped being a loving father. A man who quietly helped strangers even when he had nothing. A man who reminded her what real strength looked like. Then she revealed his name. Daniel. The room fell silent. She explained that true success wasn't measured by wealth but by the courage to care for others when life becomes unbearable. And then she did something no billionaire CEO had ever done before. She offered Daniel a position at her foundation, helping build education programs for children growing up in difficult circumstances, something connected to his old dream of becoming a teacher. But more than that, she publicly admitted something that left the entire room stunned. She had fallen in love with his heart. Not his money. Not his status. His heart. Daniel stood frozen in disbelief as the audience watched the moment unfold. For the first time in years, someone saw him not as a struggling waiter or a poor single father, but as a man worthy of respect and love. And in that moment, his life changed forever. Victoria didn't rescue him like a fairy tale princess saving someone weak. Instead, she recognized the strength that had always been inside him. Together, they began building something bigger than either of them alone. A future filled with purpose, compassion, and a little boy named Ethan who would grow up seeing that kindness could truly change destiny. Before we finish this story, I have a special request for you. If you're watching right now, comment the word hope below if you believe that life can change when people choose kindness over judgment. Stories like this remind us that sometimes the strongest people are the ones quietly fighting battles no one sees. And sometimes love finds us in the most unexpected places. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Lonely Dad's Strong Heart. Your support keeps these meaningful stories alive and spreading across the world. Because somewhere out there tonight, another struggling father is still fighting for his child, hoping that tomorrow will finally bring a little light. Heart.